The Orlando Magic are currently having one of the most impressive seasons we have seen from an NBA team in a very long time, and they are doing it under extremely tough circumstances as well, that we will be getting into a little bit later in this video. But it's just, they've been thrown the absolute kitchen sink in terms of adversity and problems for this season, and it really has not affected them much at all. And I just want to get into why I think what they are doing is just so impressive, and why more people need to talk about it, and way more people need to give them the credit that they currently deserve. As let's look at the current situation the Orlando Magic currently find themselves in. Coming into the season, they were looked at as one of the more exciting teams due for a breakout year, as just the year before they had made the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. They're a super young team, and there was a ton of hype around this team. A lot of people thought they were going to break out and be an amazing team. But really, since the beginning of the year, it has been a very rocky road in terms of their health, as since the 5th game of the season, they have been without one half of their star duo in Paolo Banchero. Now, Banchero is an extremely solid player, but he had a torn oblique, like I said, in the 5th game of the season, causing him to miss 33 out of the possible 38 games so far of this season. But what is so impressive is that in those 33 games, they have a 19-14 record. Now, that's all impressive in its own, and that would already be a pretty good accomplishment. But what is even more impressive, and even compounds it even more, is the fact that Franz Wagner would go down in game 25. And in game 25, he also went down with a torn oblique, the same injury that Paolo went down with. And he has been out for 13 games so far, and counting. There's going to be more, but as of right now, it is 13 games. And with both stars being out for those 13 games, they are still at 6-7, almost a 500 record without your two best players on the entire roster. And if you want to keep getting even more impressive, if you want to show just how impressive this season has been, for the past 8 games, they have been without one of their probably 6-man of the year candidates in Mo Wagner. Mo Wagner was playing out of his mind and was probably the best player off of anyone's bench so far this season until he went down. And it has been 8 games since he's gone down, and in those games, they are 4-4, which means they have a 500 record in games without their 2 best starters and their best player off the bench. If that's not impressive to you, I don't know what is, and there's not many teams that could pull that off. And really, let's just compare them to another team that's in a similar situation, which is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, the New Orleans Pelicans are a team that, it's basically the Orlando Magic if they went a completely opposite direction due to these injuries. So the Pelicans have been without Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson for most of the year. Now, yes, you could say there's more circumstance for the Pelicans. They've probably had to deal with a lot more injuries, but this is probably the most similar situation you're going to find. They are a team who their best 2 players were out for a significant amount of time. They also lost their 6-man for a significant amount of time, and they are now 7-30. So that shows you how impactful injuries can be on a team. Even if you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, Embiid has missed a lot of time, Paul George has missed a lot of time, and they started off the year horrible. But look at the Orlando Magic in a very similar boat as those other teams, and they are doing just fine, being a top 4 seed in their conference, sitting at a 22-16 record, which is unbelievably impressive and deserves a ton of credit, because you can see from these other examples I just gave of just how bad it can go with injuries. So now that we know the situation that the Magic currently find themselves in, and how impressive it is that they are managed to put themselves in this situation, now it naturally brings up the question, how? How is this happening? And that is what I'm going to be getting into in this part of the video. And one of the main ways that I found when I dove into this Magic team is the fact that they play elite defense. Just from watching some film on this team and just looking at the stats of this team, honestly, the defense completely pops out to you. As despite, like I said, missing star talent, missing your 6-man of the year, they have remained a top 2 defense in the entire NBA. They're currently ranked the 2nd best defense in defensive rating, which is unbelievably impressive for a team that has been as injured as the Orlando Magic have been. And now that's a huge shout out to how their entire team is basically built to play defense. They have guys like Jalen Suggs, who, yes, he is currently injured, but it looks like he's going to be able to come back. Anthony Black, who's a very solid defender. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, very good defender. Tristan De Silva, a rookie who's been a solid defender. Batadze is one of the most underrated centers in the NBA. And then lastly, obviously, Jonathan Isaac. Now, Jonathan Isaac is obviously an elite defender, but so is Jalen Suggs. So is Caldwell-Pope. So is Black. All these players play unbelievably good team defense, and that is why they are so good. The term defense wins games or defense wins championships is extremely true for the Orlando Magic. their team is absolutely locked down on the defensive side of the ball, and that is a gigantic part to how they have been able to remain as successful as they have been this season, because they're not, yes, they have lost a lot of offensive firepower, but as long as you can stop the other team from scoring and you can just score a little bit more, you're going to be able to win some games, and that is exactly the motto that the Orlando Magic are currently adopting. And then the second biggest reason to how I found out they're having the successful season is the fact that they have some elite coaching going on. As in my opinion, there is no doubt in my mind that Jamal Mosley should be the current runaway coach of the year for this season. He has been a coaching clinic. Like I said, somehow has the 27th ranked offense, but the second ranked defense, and he is turning that into the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference without your star talent, without your 6th man of the year candidate. Like, that is unbelievably impressive to me, and there's no other coach that is doing more with less right now. Like, usually that's Eric Spoelstra, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done in the past, but currently that is 100% Jamal Mosley, and he deserves to be coach of the year right now. I don't even know what argument you can make for another guy. I mean, maybe you could go, you're probably going to go with Cleveland's coach just because they have the most wins, but in my opinion, from a coaching perspective, with the least amount of talent and the coaching making the biggest difference, I would have to say the Orlando Magic, or the team that deserves to have the coach of the year this year. I just don't see how you can argue a guy like from the Cavaliers or from OKC, because they have a ton of talent and they've been relatively healthy the entire season. But for a guy to be doing this as without much adversity he's had and really kept the same motto, defense, 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 and the offense is going to come when we get healthy, and him to stick with that as good as he has and for it to lead to as much success as it has had is just one of the best coaching jobs I've seen in a very long time, and Jamal Mosley deserves his credit that he very rightfully deserves. And now that I've answered how they have been able to do it, I think it comes up to the next question to, can they improve it now? Because yes, they are currently in a very solid situation, and 22-16 is not a bad record, but they definitely have to improve. Like, the 27th offense is definitely not good enough to be a legit contender, or even really a dark horse contender in the playoffs. So now this part of the video is going to be why I think there's a few reasons for legit high-level optimism for this team going forward. The first reason for optimism, in my opinion, is going to be a very obvious one, and that's just going to be that they are basically guaranteed to get back to 90% health, because Mo Wagner is out for the year, but the other guys like Paolo and Franz are very much going to be coming back pretty soon. Franz is still a little ways away, but Paolo could come back as soon as today as recording this audio, and I mean, he is very likely to be coming back extremely soon, and obviously when he comes back, he's not going to hurt their defense because he's a very solid defender, but he is going to heavily boost that offensive firepower that they do have. Is going to make them deeper because a guy that's been starting is now going to get moved to the bench, and it's just going to be huge all around for this team, and he should be a gigantic addition to this team because I think he's one of the most underrated first overall picks to ever be selected. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, but Paolo is an absolute bucket. He's one of the best players in the entire NBA, and he just absolutely deserves more respect than he has, and he is going to help this team tremendously in the time it takes for Franz to come back. And then when Franz does ultimately come back, and they can recombine their duo of their young talents in Franz and Paolo, I think that is going to obviously make them one of the probably top 15 offenses in the NBA. So if they can remain a top 5 defense in the NBA while also being a top 15, top 10 offense once they get healthy again, that is going to obviously make them legit contenders, because most contenders have to be top 10 in both categories, defense and offensive efficiency. So if they're able to get top 10 in both of those, or at least close, you can legit make the argument that they could be a dark horse contender. And with how elite they play defense, if you bring back the offensive talents of those two players, there's no telling how high the ceiling is of this Orlando Magic team. And now moving to the next reason for optimism in this video is going to be the fact that they are extremely young as a team as a whole, as they are currently the 6th youngest team in the entire NBA. And for a very young team to already be so bought in defensively is such an encouraging sign. It's unbelievable, because most young teams, they're either very good on offense and not very good on defense, or they're not very good at much of anything. But the Orlando Magic have remained extremely young while also buying into what usually it takes veterans to do, to buy in heavily on defense, and they're only going to improve on offense as they get healthy and as they get older. And then on top of that youth, their ceilings are super high. Guys like Anthony Black, guys like Tristan De Silva, guys like Paolo, guys like Franz are still only going to improve as time goes on, and their trajectory is only up from here. So their ceiling and their roof of this team is still nowhere near to being touched, and I think that is a great sign for the Magic fans going forward, and they should 100% be excited for not even the future of this season, but the future of this franchise going forward. They have an elite coach, they have elite players, they have a great system going on, and I just think it's going to be very fun basketball being played in Orlando for a very long time going forward. For you guys, that's my first video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Orlando Magic deserve a lot more credit? Do you think what they're doing is super impressive? I want your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like point, hit the like button, and subscribe button. I mean, that's a word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.